Oh yeah, no, none, zero.
What food can you eat more than Joey Chestnut levels of, Coach?
Nothing, nothing at all.
Mead? Do you think someone might say mead?
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Draft Digest. The sickest NFL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Hello, y'all. I'm Emily Van Buskirk, and that's John Vogel. Welcome to another episode of the Sick Podcast Draft Digest Edition. That's it. That's all I got for the intro.
Fantastic. How are we doing? I mean,
I'm feeling pretty good after watching Joey Chestnut win his 17th title. Dominant. If that doesn't inspire you to be great at something, just anything, I don't know what will.
Joey has eclipsed not just Tom Brady, but he's Tom Brady, he's Michael Jordan, and Joe Montana wrapped up into one.
I had not seen that. Did someone tweet that?
No, I just came up with it right now.
What?
I was adding titles in my head, going, okay, 6, 5.
Where does Tiger Woods fall in there? Do we think?
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have to do some math on this, and we'll get back to you because this might be a good stat.
Tiger Woods, we might be able to kick Montana out, slide Woods in there.
But it was pretty epic. It was epic watching him return after all the turmoil last year, and it made my 4th of July. I know some people don't like the contest, and that's fine. I understand, there are people adverse to eating and competitive eating and whatnot, but I think the sheer sportsmanship of it and the sheer athleticism that these people display is, I suggest going in person sometime. It's up there with Army Navy on things that you should go see in your lifetime if you're a big competitive sports fan. The hot dog contest on Coney Island should be top 5, I think.
Up there with the Indianapolis 500, probably a Super Bowl, Army Navy. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's there. Yeah. I think you're on to something. And it is athletic ability, by the way. If you watch how they have to do this stuff.
By definition, they train and they compete, which means they're athletes. I actually had this conversation with Jim Harbaugh at Media Day one year, and I was like, Coach, do you watch the competition? And he was like, absolutely. Every year the Harbaugh household watches the hot dog contest. And I was like, well, are they athletes? And he was like, absolutely. And so then I said, Coach, I'm on a roll with him now. So I'm like, okay, Coach, what is the food that you could put down Joey Chestnut levels of? And you will never guess what he said. You won't guess.
Tortilla chips. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea.
And I put this out to the people listening. If you guess this, and I wish you could prove it. I don't know how you could, but if you guess this correctly, I would literally send you my firstborn. But it's corn on the cob.
Whoa.
Jim Harbaugh told me he could eat Joey Chestnut levels of corn on the cob. So there you go.
That makes sense.
And in stark contrast, Nick Saban told me he would eat those oatmeal pie things he always eats.
Oatmeal cream pies. Yes.
He could eat Joey Chestnut levels of those. That's what he said. That's just kind of sums up college football right there.
Exactly. So, yeah, fantastic.
Speaking of college football.
4th of July weekend past us now. Wanted to get into American Bowl. Dang. Got me. American
Best game
Bowl.
Of the year, sorry.
So we've got a new All-Star game on the All-Star circuit before the NFL draft. Previous years, the two main ones that everybody kind of knows about for the most part is the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, and the Shrine Bowl, which has been in a lot of different locations in the last 10 years. It was in Florida, it was in Vegas, it's been in Dallas, Frisco, it's been all over the place. So as of now, it is in Arlington, Texas. So the third game, traditionally, since the All-Star games kind of became a big part of the NFL draft circuit up until a couple of years ago when it shut down, was the NFLPA Bowl that was in Los Angeles. And once that game kind of shut down, there was sort of a vacuum where there were a couple others that filled the void. The College Gridiron Showcase down in Texas.
That's a good one.
That's a great event. And then the Hula Bowl that was originally in Hawaii, moved to Orlando. I did the whole piece on it, or the tweet, the long form tweet about it back in February with some of the findings that I came to. And you had the Tropical Bowl as well that was in Orlando. So the thing that's kind of happened this offseason is 2 of these games are potentially falling off. You have the Hula Bowl that's falling off, and that's mostly because of the problems that I had highlighted back in February, the Ponzi that your owner Nick Logan was running behind it, and just pure mismanagement to the highest levels. So the Hula Bowl most likely will not be played this year due to but most of the staff have left. They don't have a staff right now. They don't have a stadium. There's so much that I would like to talk about with it that I really can't get into detail because I can't verify it. But they don't have a practice field. They don't have a hotel to put these players in. They don't have a person running the game. So we're already in July. It's a pretty good chance it's not going to happen. The Tropical Bowl is probably not going to be played this year, and that's more on the account of the owner and the manager of the game, Mike Quarterly, passing last month. So, Mike Quarterly, great guy. He was a really big football guy that he cared about people. He cared about the players he brought in, and he had some people that were helping him with the event, but he really did a large majority of it. It's very hard to see that game's going to get off the ground this year too. So now comes the American Bowl. And I wanted to get into this because I've had some DMs about it. Some people have been asking me about it. And I do have some information to give you about it. So first off, this is basically most of the people that used to work at the Hula Bowl that are not working there anymore are working this game. Scott Phillips is running it. He was the director of the Hula Bowl last year. Great guy, great person that understands business. And they have already acquired the NFL Network partnership. So the game is going to be on NFL Network.
I saw that they have the date and the time and the NFL Network tag already. So that's that's pretty
it's done. It's done. Yeah. It's going to be on NFL Network. It's going to be at Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida. So it's filling that spot, and it's going to be most likely, all things considered, you have the NFL partnership with NFL Network. A lot of these people have really good relationships with the league that are in this game. The coaches coming in are the guys that have been coaching the Hula Bowl the last several years, Mike Smith and Brian Billick. This is going to be the number 3 game this year. So I wanted to get into it.
About the timing of it. So it says January 22nd. The national championship is the 19th in Miami.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting for media that are going to be out there covering the game. And then maybe that's on purpose. So then they can kind of extend a little. But what a way to get some attention.
Right. Yeah. Because you'll have the national championship game there while the practices are going on, because the practices are going to be played.
Will be there. Yeah.
You're going to be there for 4 days before the game. So
that's smart.
It's a great idea across the board. They've got all the right people, I think, to make it an extremely successful event. And if everything goes according to plan, I'll be there. I'm going. It's going. I'm putting this out there because we have all-star games that start. One of the things that I don't want to say made me an expert in the space, but certainly solidified my position in the space was exposing the Cajun Bowl in 2021.
Oh my gosh. You told me this story.
Yeah. So that, like, we have all-star games that pop up that are not legitimate.
Which is wild because I don't think I've ever seen, I've never seen one. So I when you told me that story, I was like, there's no way that people just create these.
They do. And there was another one that I saw this year that I don't believe was played. That was supposed to be in Huntsville, Alabama. And so, which was a very strange spot. That caught my attention because I'm like, is there even a football field outside of a high school field in Huntsville, Alabama? Because I know UAH is there, but they don't have a football team. And I was kind of like, that's weird. But
Did
anyway,
it have a name? What was it called?
I don't even remember.
I'll have to go look.
It was one of these Twitter DMs, and that's how I found out about it.
Gotcha.
And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's legit. So I know that agents, they have to be really proactive about figuring out what's a good event, what's a good place to send them.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to put this out there, is because, if you're an agent, you've got a client this year, and you get the invite to the American Bowl, it's a good idea. You definitely want to consider it. This is going to be a really good event for these players that are trying to get into the NFL to showcase their ability.
Yeah.
Especially if you can't get into the Senior or the Shrine Bowl. If you've got, the CGS, and I obviously the guys that run the CGS, they do a great job too. And I don't want to say, oh, well, it's not a great game, because that's not at all the case, but it's going to be a better opportunity to go to the American Bowl this year with everything that's kind of being put into place. So I wanted to put that out there before we got into anything else. And I'm really excited about it, and especially because of the people that are involved with it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun for people to go down there and see it.
Yeah. Kim and I will be there for the Natty, so I don't see what the harm is in staying a few more days.
Live podcast from Lakeland, Florida. That's what it sounds like to me.
Lakeland compared to Miami, I guess?
That's a good question.
I would have to look
I'd have to look at it too. I don't know Florida. I know I flew to Orlando when I went down there for the Tropical Bowl a few years ago. Like I don't know. I didn't drive.
How do you hear Tropical Bowl and not giggle and say, let's get tropical? That is the only thing I hear when you say that, is that.
That was the phrase when I was there, believe it or not.
Wait, really?
Before they came out on the field, like back there. Yep. I was on the sideline as they came out of the tunnel. And that's what they were yelling. Let's go tropical.
Let's get okay. So it's a hike from Miami. It's like outside of Tampa.
Okay.
But Florida is pretty. Let's see. Florida's pretty drivable. And there's also like a train that runs. It's like 4 hours. Okay.
So you get done with the Natty and you got enough time to be at a practice and watch the game.
I do have a friend that lives in Fort Myers, which I think is not far from there, but
I think that's over by Tampa. Could be wrong. But yeah.
So it's not far from Tampa.
Agents. Anyways. Send your player there if you get the invite.
Yes.
Absolutely. Do it.
Yeah.
Now you have been at the Big 12 Pro Media Days, and there's been some really interesting conversations come out of there. So I'm going to let you guide this from this point. And
I know, I'm so excited. The Media Day kickoff means that we're so close to college football. And so that's really what they're pretty. I went last year and they had it in Vegas and they did it at Allegiant. And it was really smart because they had Big 12 there, and then they had Mountain West at Circa within days of each other. And then the Pac-12 snuck a little 2-team media day in there, which was actually just like cocktails and conversation with the coaches and players, and it was awesome. So last year was a whirlwind of college football, but this year they moved it. It was in Texas at the Cowboy Stadium, so which is also cool. You could literally hear country music playing in the background, which was fun. I watched the whole thing today because I could not go this year to Big 12, unfortunately, and so I was one of the people that was watching the broadcast very, very closely because I wanted to see what was going to happen. There's been a lot of stuff in the Big 12, particularly the storyline of them not doing a poll, and not only like a preseason poll, but the coaches all decided not to do a coaches poll. So I thought that was interesting. And obviously it's based on, Arizona State and the rankings and how it really hurt them last year, and the coaches had this idea. They're like, let's not do these preseason polls until the first college football rankings come out. So that's not really preseason anymore, right? And I think there's some merit to still doing rankings, just because I think it's interesting to see where you think teams are going to end up and then where they actually end up. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the coaches were very adamant that it was more harmful. So I wonder, do you think that this is something that other conferences will move away from, especially in the era of where we don't know what the playoff the criteria is, how they're going to change it, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'd say that they do, but maybe not for that reason.
Okay.
If you think about what the coach has to do in modern college football, just from a job standpoint. Okay, so you are managing a football team. Mm-hmm. You are installing offense, defense. You're installing a scheme. And then on top of that, now you have to retain your players. You have to go out and recruit new players. And you're dealing with a budget now with NIL, especially with all of this rev share stuff. I mean, everybody's seen the Texas Tech kid that just signed the 2-year, $5 million deal to go to Texas Tech. Yeah. 2 years out of high school.
That was the craziest conversation on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that, by the way, between Stuart Mandel and Darren Ravel. And there was this whole, I don't know if it was about that specific instance, but it's the same thing where it's like, it was somebody who got guaranteed money, right, to come play. And then the question became about, okay, if we're paying this kid, they're going to pay him guaranteed X amount of money. He's not going to go to class. And so therefore, like, academic stuff is going to change. And Stuart and him got in this huge argument on Twitter about it. It was really interesting. And I thought,
well, I don't think he's not going to go to class.
Well, and so the question is, obviously there's like requirements at each school of like GPA and that kind of stuff. But we all know
that things get finagled. Yeah, absolutely.
We all know that, like, these guys, if they want to go to class, they will. And a lot of them, I don't know a lot, but some of them do. And some of them are there for other reasons, which is whatever. But doing this guaranteed money deal type stuff, that I agree with Ravel. I do think it's going to change things.
Yeah, I do. So to finish the initial question, no, it's okay. It's okay. Cause I want to go down this road too, but to finish the initial question, right. You have all these responsibilities as a coach. Mm-hmm. The preseason poll is going to become the lowest of priorities. You know what I mean? So, because it's hard enough managing your own team, and you have.
But do you think it's harmful to rank them in general?
I don't think it's harmful at all. I think that Arizona State, they can say whatever they want about how it harmed them and stuff.
Yeah.
But their offense last year was Cam Scatterbo.
God bless him.
Their defense was decent, but and Sam Leavitt looks like he might be a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
But their offense last year was Cam Scatterbo. And when we have teams that are so predicated on one player, they're not going to get rated highly, especially with these other teams and stuff. So they really got in because they were guaranteed to get in. Otherwise, I don't think they would have been in the playoff. So I don't think it necessarily hurts them. I think that it spoke more to the level of competition that the Big 12 has compared to the SEC or the Big 10. But to go back to this contract thing real quick, we'll come back to that.
But let me just say this. So do you think, okay, maybe it doesn't hurt them, but how silly, for lack of a better word, do you look that your number one team, Utah, finishes 2-7?
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, like, do we need these rankings in the beginning? Yes, to a degree, because we need to know the starting points of each of the programs, but how, like, we maybe not put as much stock into these things that we do.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Why did Utah go 2-7? They had injuries the wazoo that you can't control.
Right.
It was still a good team. They still put out good talent. They have good talent.
Yeah.
They have a great coach. But when you get absolutely massacred with the injuries like that, and you've got a quarterback you think that's coming back that doesn't come back.
I don't know that I've ever seen a situation where 5 teams that receive first place votes all finished 8th or worse in the conference. I mean, that was pretty unprecedented. And I think that speaks more to the realignment and the forcing of groupings of these, different levels of programs. That's what it is,
Well, and in the Big 12, especially because they took on several Pac-12 teams as part of their expansion. They brought in BYU and all of these schools, the Big 12, everybody made a joke out of them for a long time because they played no defense. And it was just Patrick Mahomes against Baker Mayfield racking up 600 yards each, right?
Which was their identity. It's like, that's what they were.
Okay. And that's what it was. And so when you take the air raid offenses and you go up against those Pac-12 schools that didn't play air raid offenses, but are built with speed and can rush get home with the 4-man rush, like that creates mismatch problems, and that was something that league was not prepared for at all. So I don't think it necessarily hurt them.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It was just funny. And it's funny that impacted how they then made decisions of how they're going to do media stuff this year.
Right.
It was a very big reaction to it. I don't know that it was that necessary. I think it was kind of a one-off of the changing of the guard and figuring things out. But the reaction to it was so funny.
And the other thing that you have to consider with it too is the turnover of a college roster is unprecedented at this point, right? With the transfer 100%. Portal, it's so hard to realistically project. Like right now, we think that the best schools in the country are probably going to be Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia's probably going to be up there, LSU. We really don't know.
Yeah.
We don't
know what the starting rosters look like even, really.
Yeah, no. Most people have not gone through the transfer portal extensively and have tracked the locations of 3,100 players. No. I haven't done that. I've done a lot of it, but I haven't done that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, that's not, it's very difficult to put all this stuff together.
That's why Kenny Dillingham's comments were so interesting to me, because first of all, it was wild that the coaches were up on stage and the moderator, who I think it was Matt Berry, was asking them questions, right? And he wanted all of them to answer this one. And it was, what kind of conversation do you have with your team, about turnover? Like, I guess, like, what's the messaging and how do you, what do you say to them basically? And it was interesting to see, because Big 12 has a lot of variety in coaching personalities. You got Chris Kleiman, who's like very kind of like, he's almost like a lawyer. And then, you've got the Texas Tech coach, Joe McGuire, who's like a good old boy, is hilarious and holding the microphone like a cigarette or like a cigar. And, then you have Kenny Dillingham, and he's this pretty straight shooter, but he's a young guy. And he'll never know that he didn't like the question, but I think he didn't like the question. And he basically was like, I don't say anything about it because we don't deal with that. Retention is what matters to me. I don't care about recruiting, winning recruiting. I don't care about winning social media. I care about, bringing players back. And he's like, when you treat players well, they come back. And he basically said it in this, like he was talking to a 5-year-old kind of way. I died. I couldn't. He's just, and
these are comments that I have to get into too. But I do want to touch on the contract situation with college football.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, the reason that you're seeing this start with these high guys coming out, I think it's because I don't remember the Wisconsin player's name. I may be able to find it here real quick. There's a Wisconsin player who transferred out of Wisconsin and went to Miami.
Yeah.
And when he did this, he did not enter the transfer portal. And so the University of Wisconsin contested this. And they said, basically, because he didn't enter the portal, he couldn't transfer. Xavier Lucas. Thank you. Now, Lucas, this was a very premeditated move. Okay. And the reason that I point this out is because he already had a lawyer, and his lawyer is Darren Heitner. Okay. Darren Heitner was one of those lawyers that everybody hired back before you could transfer without a penalty to get you off the penalty.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Heitner is one of the top college athlete lawyers in the country. And that's why I follow him on X. And when I saw him start tweeting about it, I realized exactly what it was. This was what Darren got the NCAA to basically admit, is the fact that the transfer portal actually doesn't exist. So therefore, because it doesn't,
or it's like
not real. Right. Okay. Right. It's not real.
Okay.
And so because of that, there's no way that they could penalize them. And so this precedent has been set with the portal. There is no transfer portal. It's not a real place. It's not some place that you go to, so therefore it doesn't really exist. It's a database.
It's a virtual waiting room, is it not?
Essentially is what it is. But that's the thing, is it's like this case is going to change college contracts, because that's why you're seeing this kid signing a contract with Texas Tech, guaranteed money in it, because that guaranteed money is the way, if he's going to get that money, he's going to have to stay there. And he can't just leave. Yeah. He can't hit the portal. He can't decide, I'm going to this school, right? So
it's an insurance policy for the school, which exactly. I get. But exactly. I do think that there is some truth to what, was being said about, then that in turn is going to change the college experience. It's just, and all these things, while they seem like protection of programs or players or whatever, they're actually getting us further away from the goal and the truth.
Well, the reality of college athletics is it's going to basically, like college football is going to turn the NFL. Okay. Like that's what's about to happen. Yeah. Like at some point there's going to be a salary cap. There's going to be budgets, and people are going to have to keep the numbers in. It's probably going to be related to a tier type system. Honestly, the NCAA won't be involved at some point. And then I think in the next 5 years.
They couldn't be, because there's you can't govern something like that,
No, not at all. And so what you're going to see is, it may be an SEC Big Ten type coalition that comes together, creates a super league outside of the realm of the NCAA. It's going to be something along those lines.
Some more alliances that we can see happen, and then
and there'll be other schools that'll jump into the fray, Clemson, Florida State, Duke, North Carolina, those types of schools where as a football only they may leave the NCAA, because for now the NCAA does hold the power in college basketball with the tournaments and most of the other sports like that. But like with football, this is totally wide open right now, and we're going to get to a point where it's going to turn into a miniature NFL. These guys they're going to be outside the jurisdiction of the NCAA, and contracts, salary caps, all these things are going to come into play, and it's going to turn into that's essentially what it's going to be. So this is, yes, it is a step away from the traditional college football, right? But the NCAA,
it's a step away. College football, by using the term college football, it isn't that. So whatever this is going to be or is morphing into is not that. So at some point we're just going to stop using that term, because that's not what it's going to be. Do you know what I mean?
I think, I agree. There'll be people that won't use the term, right? They'll have another term for it.
It's going to be called something else for sure. I think
that the general term college football will evolve with it, right? It'll stay with it.
I don't know. I really don't, because I've been doing this 12 years now. Not that that's forever, but it's in the time, it's like being a millennial at this time. You've seen everything. You've seen it all. You saw before there was internet, you saw the age of the internet and now. And I feel like I didn't think we'd ever get here. You know what I mean? Even though people had said like, this is coming, it was always something on the horizon that you're like, yeah, maybe, no. But now we're here, and there's no way that it's still going to be even called. I just don't think it'll even be called that. It's going to be whatever the feeder system is for the NFL. But what's crazy is these guys can make more the way it is than they make when they go into the NFL. So it's not even a feeder like that per se. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think most of that, that's all about to evolve too, right?
Yeah, probably.
So from a draft standpoint, how does all of this affect the NFL? Like, how does it? I think it's a net positive.
Okay, yeah, I don't think it affects the NFL in a negative way at all.
No, and this was one of the points that I brought up with NIL initially when all this started. There were a lot of people that were, the diehard, the I don't want to call them boomers, because that's not really what they were, but the people that loved college football, didn't want it to change.
I mean, that's me. That was me probably. I still am upset, but yeah, I don't.
So the argument that I presented is, look, from the NFL standpoint, you're going to see these guys with money, and you're going to see how they handle money, and then you're also going to see how much they actually care about football. And that's
so
the
like a
big
character test.
question. Yeah, it's a massive character test. Are you kidding me? Because you look
or
at
they're
Marcus
just going to get
Russell.
better at hiding their true character because they're going to be surrounded by slick agents already from an early age now, and people that are advising them and teaching them how to have fall guys, how to hide things, like all of the negative parts that come along with being in the NFL that we don't really talk about, people don't talk about, but they're there. Okay. Maybe they learn how to hide things better, and then you don't really know who they are until it's too late.
Well, that's the thing, is the agent community is small. And so you know who's who in the agent community. You know of the character of the agent, and you're very familiar with the things that they do and the way that they operate. So I think maybe from a media standpoint, yeah, there's going to be some stuff that's still hidden.
These guys are more savvy now than ever. College players, while still sometimes stupid, okay, they're kids to a degree, they are more savvy than they've ever been because of everything we've seen happen. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You don't watch the Johnny Manziel documentary and not learn from it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
They're learning and growing at a rate that's crazy. And so, yes, you're right. To a degree, we're going to see how they handle it. But I mean, they're just smarter because they have to be savvier, I guess would be the word.
I think that's where the human element of scouting comes in. You get a really good feel for how a guy operates with his teammates, how well the teammates like him. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Money changes that, because money changes personality most of the time, right? Where, a guy that, back when he was broke, he's going to be a totally different guy with $2 million in his pocket or on his credit card. You know what I mean? Like that changes everything. So that you see how well they operate with their teammates. You see how well they take coaching. You see all of this.
Yeah.
Maybe there are some off the field stuff, that does get hidden. That's a good point that you bring up. But I think for the most part, that stuff is known way before the media ever knows about it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard things about a player, 2-3 months before, it broke in the media and everybody knew about it. And it's just because, hey, that stuff doesn't get hidden,
sometimes, but there's a reason that Nick Saban, I mean, his circle was so tight. And I know a guy that was his SID, a very good friend of mine. And I mean, he would tell me things sometimes, but that was just never out there. I mean, I don't know. It depends. Like if you have enough respect, like you said, from your teammates in the program, and there is stuff going on, you can get away with it, But I agree with you. I think that's my favorite part of scouting. And I wanted to be a scout for a while because I liked sitting across from the guy and understanding, how he looks at things and how he treats people around him.
Yeah, his process, like what is his process? How does he gel with a team? And that's where you get a really good feel for, okay, does this guy love football? To me, that's the most important question from a psychological standpoint for any football player. How much do you love football? Because if this is just your day job, I don't want you on my team personally. Like, I want somebody who's going to turn it up when the pressure comes on and it's a 3-point game with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I don't want some guy that's just out there making a block because it's his job. I want him out there making a block because he's there to win, So that's the most important question to me from a psychological standpoint is, how much do you love football? Yeah. I can work with divas. I can work with people that, are going to make some bad decisions up to a certain point, and to, obviously like the Henry Ruggs level and those types of levels, then you gotta go. Like they can't be there. But I can work with people making bad decisions off the football field and trying to correct them because they love football, right? And we have that shared common ground that we can always come back to and say, hey, this is where our business relationship is based on. So
how you would really find out if someone loves football? If you take all of this away. If you take all of it back, and isn't that anymore, you would really find out pretty quick.
That's true.
Who loves the game.
That's very true. Going back to the comments real quick. I think we were about to get into a Dillingham, right?
Yes.
About what was the quote?
Well, I tweeted out the quote. I was literally sitting there watching and transcribing because I knew Kenny was going to say something because he always does. But he basically said, our program is built on retention, not acquisition. I don't want to win in recruiting rankings. I don't want to win social media.
Yeah, that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
That's the perfect. Yeah. That is the college football, and really it should be the NFL too. Mm-hmm. But that's the college football mecca, right? Is retention.
Yeah. Yes.
So not trying to get ridiculously nerdy here, okay? But let's look at the transfer portal, and some people that got the early access into NCAA football 26 have experienced the transfer portal in the new dynasty mode that is absolutely mayhem. 30 players can go into the portal any year out of your program.
That's crazy.
So, it's awesome. I love it. Thank God.
I'm not a big video game. I never played. I don't really have a frame of reference, but it sounds crazy. It sounds chaotic.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely nuts.
Okay.
But I love it. Okay. Because I like sports games the most when it comes to video games and stuff, and specifically building franchises and team building. That's my passion.
Who's going to be your first dynasty team? I see that question out there. Like, who are you going to? What program?
So probably somewhere in the Mountain West.
Okay.
Probably looking at a UNLV or something like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Starting out there. Yep. But I'll play the coaches game all the way up too, and promote up, but try to get up to a SEC school. That's the idea.
I've been seeing some of the uniforms.
It's fantastic.
I saw, and I don't know if this is real or AI because sometimes I don't know. But there was a picture of the Central Michigan ones. Did you see that? Mm-mm. You're probably not on Central Michigan TikTok or Twitter. I'm on the Central Michigan side of Twitter because Matt Drinkall is the best coach ever. I'm so excited to watch them this year, but they did them kind of dirty with these uniforms. Central Michigan is maroon and yellow, and they're pretty it's very Michigan. It's a very blue collar kind of uniform, but the graphic of it, if that's real, it's rough. You should Google it. I was like,
I'll check it out. I'll take a look. But no, it's the point is, you look at all of these top schools that have lost a bunch of players. Let's even look at. I got Central Michigan pulled up right now.
I don't think they didn't. Did they?
They lost a bunch.
Well, they got a new coach, so that probably why.
Right. Yeah, that was a huge part of it.
But I guarantee his retention level will be high because the kind of guy he is. He's similar to Dillingham. He buys into the guys, and that's what Coach Dillingham said. He said when you pour into their cup, they're going to pour back into yours, and that was the analogy he used. So it sounds kind of, I don't know.
I mean, cliche. That's the word you're looking for.
Cliche, but cringe, I guess is what the kids say. It's a little cringy, but that's how I think about college football because that's how romantic I am about it. And the way that he views the game and that's why I like him so much, is he's romantic about college football. He believes in loyalty. He believes in, building what's there and not looking elsewhere. He's probably been faithful to every girlfriend he's ever had because that's just the kind of guy that's the vibe you get from him. He's never even looked at another girl. You know what I mean? So I like that. I like it.
But no, every school loses a lot of people to the portal every year.
I know.
And so if you can retain your talent, that's where you have your best chance as a school to
how do
build
you do
a
that
consistent
amidst
program.
All this chaos.
Right. And that's what Kenny is talking about, which is fantastic. And I love the quote and I love what he said. And he's absolutely right. Because if let's take Saban, right? Saban quit. Why did Saban quit? Well, because
he saw the end. Okay. He saw the end.
Modern players are not going to respond to Nick Saban's style of coaching anymore.
Which is crazy. It's also why Harbaugh left, I think.
Yes, it's exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Belichick, unless there's
no way Bill Belichick coaches a game. Okay, I'm going on record here.
I mean, he's made it this far. Unless
There's
look,
gonna be a plot
if he's the same guy that he was in New England for 20 plus years, he's not going to relate.
How's he going to be
modern
different?
college
Like,
player.
of course, he's
well,
going to.
That's what I'm saying. He's got a 25-year-old girlfriend. I mean, like that
she's an NPC. I don't think she's real. I don't.
That might bring him down to this level. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying
she's probably going to make him more relatable, but I don't want to.
Well, there's all kinds of rabbit holes to go down with that one.
Pick another example. I don't like.
Well, that's the point. I'm using the old hard ass.
I know.
Coach.
There's not many of them left.
Work. And what's working? The Marcus Freemans, the Robert, or not Robert.
Kenny Dillingham. Yeah.
Kenny Dillingham. Thank you.
Frank Hall and Spencer Danielson.
Yeah. See the young guy, they have something that they can bring, and they find something to unite and glue the team together that keeps everybody focused on the same goal without being that guy that's like discipline, right? Which, hey, football requires discipline, right? It does. But to be the guy that's like, yeah, you're here, I'm going to treat you like you are the lowest form of earth until you give me a different reason. Like the old drill sergeant mantra, it just doesn't work anymore. Not in football.
I agree. But there you have to have that spark, you have to have that fire and energy. And I think that's why the young guys also excel, is they have a level of energy that you just don't have at 50, 60 years old anymore. So that's just that's what it is. Okay, last question for you on this. So Scott Frost was there. Yeah.
Which don't take the wrong job.
Yeah. Okay. So you know where I'm going with this. Weird seeing Scott Frost back. Didn't love it. I've interviewed him at Media Day before, and he absolutely hates. He actually yelled at me in a room full of people because I asked him about like a motto or a slogan, like what's the mantra this year for your team. Absolutely hated it. Super get off my lawn energy, right? But then you look at him here and he's like the old Scott Frost again. And so I don't trust this guy as much as I could throw him, but it seems like this is the place he's supposed to be. So do you think he's going to be successful at UCF?
Well, it's a different level now. Right. Mm-hmm. When he coached there before, they were still in the American Conference. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot easier to navigate through, because of the competition level. Now you're in Power 4 football. Mm-hmm. That's where he's had the lack of success so far. In Nebraska, don't get me wrong. Nebraska's a bad program to try to walk into right now because you've got no real pipeline. You've got no real you're in the Big Ten, but what the last time Nebraska was relevant, like none of these guys that are playing for the team now are born. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Tom Osborne running the wishbone offense, right? That was the last time Nebraska was really relevant. So it's really hard to sell those traditional things when you go to Nebraska and be like, yeah, we have this great rich tradition. Really? I wasn't alive for it. I didn't see it. When was that? Most of these kids, they're not nerds about college football. They don't they don't have encyclopedias like I do sitting behind me that they sat there and read as kids going, this is fascinating. Nebraska used to be really good. Wow. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's a tough place to go into. And hey,
and it was a hard transition that he made. And it was very like, why are you doing this?
It was his alma mater, I think, which made sense.
Yeah.
So he wanted to go back and do that. But
yes,
he had something. I mean, they were 2019 national champs, remember? At UCF. Like that was the energy that they had.
Self-proclaimed, but yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Self-proclaimed.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying it with that voice.
His like vibe from that, to take that and to go to Nebraska and think at all that you were going to, be able to transfer that energy, like, no. And it failed miserably, but it's also like, he's smarter than that. And so I always wondered, why?
Well, it's your chance to go back to your alma mater, be a hero. That's why.
Is that really what everybody like? Is that
I think for him, that was it.
Well, he learned a valuable lesson. So
yeah, don't take the wrong job. That's what he said, right?
He did say, don't take the wrong job. He also said, I wouldn't leave UCF unless it was somewhere you could win a national championship. I got tugged in a direction to try and help my alma mater. Tugged at the old heartstrings, and didn't really want to do it. That's what he said. It wasn't a good move.
Oh, no.
Yep.
No.
Didn't really want to do it. Wasn't a good move. I'm lucky.
This is ex-boyfriend vibes.
That's what I'm saying is I don't like him. He drives me crazy. He has a lot of Karen energy sometimes. And the way that he interacted with me, I was like, immediately no. And then his comments today, I was like, no, just embrace the narrative that it just didn't work out. That's okay. It didn't have to work out. And now you're in a situation where you can go back to, what you used to do. It didn't need to be like that.
I think the attitude change, though, comes from what do you do in Nebraska?
What did he do in Nebraska? Is the question.
Well, I mean, outside of football.
No, I know. I know what you mean.
What can you do in Nebraska compared to what you can do in Orlando? Just Orlando, not even the rest of Florida. Like just Orlando.
Yeah. Well, Orlando I also don't personally care for Orlando.
Okay.
But I mean,
the traffic there is terrible and the airport's awful, but I thought it was a cool place outside of that.
One of the other questions he got asked about was, the matchup with Bill Belichick, interestingly enough, because they're going to play
each other. Yeah.
And he responded by saying, I played Bill for 2 years with the New York Jets when I was starting my career. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I know how great of a coach he is. So we will have a real challenge there. So obviously he's capable of having coach speak. That was a very crafty nothing, right? Great. I'm going to play Bill Belichick. Yeah. He's able to do it, and he just chooses not to sometimes. And that's why I'm like, ugh. But it was weird. It was weird. It was a weird day to see. There's some Big 12 that make a lot of sense. Like I said, Joey McGuire, love, epitome of that. I like the addition of Dillingham. BYU's head coach, I love him, but that's a hard sell for me as well. Like they're so all over the place with their personalities, their coaching styles, even how they were dressed. It's just like, I don't know that the Big 12 is ever going to find cohesion in that way. So, but it's fun to watch.
No, it is a fun conference. Though I can tell you that I know scouts that went from being assigned to SEC type schools to going to the Big 12 and going, gotta watch the Big 12.
There's going to be some good football. Texas Tech is going to be very good this year.
No. From a college football standpoint, absolutely. There's going to be some good football. And this was the last thing I think that you wanted to touch on because you had mentioned it before we started recording.
Yeah.
The competition level.
Somebody straight up today said, and I think it might have been Matt Berry, that this conference is the deepest conference in college football.
Absolutely not.
I dare to dream, sir. Like
look, like some of these schools have had massively really good off seasons. Texas Tech had a massively great off season. Not 100%. Just because they just signed a freshman player to a $5 million contract, but the transfers that they targeted, 3 of them were on my all underrated team last year. For draft, not college football, for the draft.
Yeah.
They brought them in. They brought in a bunch of key guys. They brought in the top 100 guy, David Bailey from Stanford.
Yes.
They loaded up and they're going to be good as long as they get some good quarterback play, which they should have capable quarterback play.
And Texas Tech is one of the only teams, if not the only team, with a tight end that's a country music star, Hayden Wigington. Shout out.
Oh, interesting. Did not know that.
If you like country music, check him out. He's incredible. Also, he's a very good tight end. So I'm rooting for Texas Tech.
Oh, no, they're going to be good. The problem is when you start talking about deep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like.
Okay. Look, I got friends at Houston. I'm really not trying to shit on Houston right now, but.
I have a lot of friends at Houston. Dean Connor is one of my favorite running backs.
I love Dean Connors.
He's going to be great. And I love Willie Fritz and I love Slade Nagel.
But they're still far away right now from being really competitive.
Yes. And their facility wise, I'm sorry, but like the comparison of going to a place like Texas Tech and then looking at Houston Stadium, it's
different. Absolutely different. Kansas is probably going to have a rough year. As much as I like that program, they're going to have a rough year. Oklahoma State is a question mark, especially after last year.
Yeah, they lost a lot.
West Virginia is not going to compete with this group very well. Cincinnati's probably not going to do very well. Baylor is a question mark. I mean, this is not a deep conference. And then Colorado is a question mark. I know you hate talking about Colorado. Okay. They're a question mark right now because Coach Prime over there is not with the team at the moment.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to say anything bad about him because I know he's dealing with whatnot. So obviously,
I know he's having the health issues and stuff.
If he's unwell, I wish him well, but it's a mess. But you say West Virginia, Rich Rodriguez is back. So
yes, but he's
back.
Flip it in 1 year.
I'm not saying 1 year, but I think we will see.
We'll see him get there.
We're going to see some stuff from them. Also, Kansas State. I'm not going to lie to you. I voted for them last year to win the whole thing. So I was one of those people. Okay. I was wrong. But do we think that maybe they have a Heisman dark horse in Avery Johnson?
That is a dark horse.
Well, he was in a gorgeous light purple suit at Media Day today. So he is more like a white knight, to be honest with you. He's got the long blonde hair. He looks like a knight.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I remember sending him, I think, to my daughter's mother going, why does this guy look like your little sister?
I think it could be interesting to watch given Kansas State's schedule. Obviously the scheduling comes into play with some of these question marks, so we'll see. But
their schedule's gonna be rough. It's not as deep as the SEC. No. It's not as deep as the Big Ten.
Well, and I even hate saying the SEC is deep because the bottom of the SEC is rough, so I don't know.
Yeah, but how many teams are at the bottom of the SEC? It's like 2, maybe 3 at tops.
It depends. I mean, obviously, I don't know what's going to happen.
We're going to say Mississippi State's at the bottom because they're in a really rough spot. They've been for a long time. Vanderbilt is typically down there. They're not. They're sneaky good.
You can't trust them. You can't trust.
No, you can't trust them. But they're sneaky good.
Sometimes.
They beat Alabama last year.
They have these moments where you're like, okay, are they good or are they just, having a moment?
But you run through these schools: Alabama, Arkansas.
Arkansas another one.
They're probably at the bottom of the SEC tier, and yet you're kind of like, that's a dangerous team. They got some stuff there. Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky. Kentucky's probably at the bottom. They're dangerous outside the SEC. LSU, Missouri.
These are not schools where I'm like, I have 100% faith that they're going to win 100% of the time. So I don't know that you can say I don't.
I have a lot of faith in these teams going up against even mid-tier ACC, Big 12, and beating the crap.
I'm not saying that there's a better, my old argument was the Pac-12 in 2016, peak Pac-12 when you had Stanford doing well with Wildcat, you had Oregon, really rolling. You had USC. When USC is good, the Pac-12 was good. That was just a contingent. I got in an argument with David Pollock at ESPN Awards, and we fought for an hour where he pushed his kids aside to have this argument because he's obviously a big SEC guy. Yeah, whatever. I was Pac-12 during that time, best conference top to bottom, and you could not say that about the SEC back then.
No,
but you could say it about the Pac-12 because you had an Oregon State team that could win 5 games if they needed to. Washington State, you never knew what was going to happen in Pullman ever. Okay. Pac-12 after dark was trending. The bottom of the Pac-12 then. So to me, when I think of a complete conference, a deep conference, I revert. That's my scale. And I don't know that there is conference like that anymore because we estimated them. So
that's fair. The way that
closest maybe.
The way that I look at it is if these teams have to play outside of conference, how do they play?
Against who though? Are we talking about
their
non-con scheduling?
Mid-tier, well, their tier, mid-tier, right? So if I'm looking at a lower level team like Mississippi State, okay, Mississippi State is probably at the very bottom. They lost to Western Michigan at home last year. You know what I mean? So Mississippi State has a lot of work to do to get to where they need to be.
Yeah.
But you look at Arkansas, okay. Arkansas is going to go score points against people. That shootout against Oklahoma State back when Oklahoma State was ranked last year and they were still healthy, that was a phenomenal game. And
I hear
that's what I kind of look at is
like they can turn around and drop games that they're not
supposed to. That's the nature of college football. That's just college football.
But then you can't call it strong if you like. There's teams out there. For example, I loved this. Joey McGuire today was like, he was like, we want LSU. He was like, they were talking about scheduling and like, you know, how they could play better teams. And he basically was like, yeah, we like, give us a team like that and we'll show you what we can do. So if we're talking about
out of conference, I don't even know.
It's never good. And that's another thing I hate is like, you know, the scheduling, the non-con, you have to do that stuff to get the wins because you can't afford in the CFP era to like lose those games, you know?
Yeah. It's Arkansas Pine Bluff, which is at the bottom rung of the SWAC right now.
Yeah.
Kent State, which is somehow probably a worse team this year than they were last year, and Oregon State. Yeah,
which
not great, Bob.
Oregon State, where are they playing them at?
At home. Yeah, all these games are at home.
Oregon State is going to be a good team. Are they going to be good enough on the road?
No, not against
that game. No, probably not.
No.
But
no,
if they played them in Corvallis, I would say that would be a game. It's hard to play in Corvallis.
Yeah, with that the way the stadium sound works and how that goes in there and gets loud. Yeah, that place is nuts.
Crowd, so
that place is nuts. But yeah, so I think I absolutely think that retention is a huge key. I don't think that the Big 12 is the deepest kind, especially from a draft standpoint. Like, no, not in the slightest. And if you look at the average SEC school has currently right now in the NFL anywhere between 40 to 50 players on active rosters. In the Big 12, it is anywhere from 15 to 25.
Well, see, and this is where I wish the Pac-12 was still alive because their numbers were always pretty good with Utah, USC, Oregon, Stanford, whatever. But yeah, so I get it.
It's not even
kind of football.
Close.
Okay, it's a different.
Not even close. No.
Right. So basically, what did we learn today? We learned that you should go play in the American Bowl if you get asked. We learned that Kenny Dillingham, I can't say the F word, but I would, Fs. So Arizona State's going to be good because their retention rate is high and retention is king right now.
Mm-hmm.
We also learned that.
And the Big 12 is not the deepest conference.
We learned that.
It's not.
We learned that Scott Frost is a bitter ex-boyfriend. So pretty good lessons today.
Hey, it's off season. It is the off season. Once we get back into college football swing, this is going to be totally.
We're going to have even better lessons for you guys next week from Mountain West Media Day. Which, if you think Big 12 was crazy, Mountain West is going to be.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun. Okay, well, I'll close this out here for Jimmy. I know he wants to probably go to bed because we've kept him up for a long time. But for everybody at the Sick
Podcast, hope you learned a lot, Jimmy.
Jimmy's always learning. He's a fast learner. Everybody at the Sick Podcast Network, John Vogel, Emily Van Buskirk, and we'll be back at it next week here on Sick Podcast Draft Digest. Jimmy, let's go.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Draft Digest on YouTube, X, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.